It is a pleasure for me to be here with you guys this evening to make this speech. It all started with a catchy title sent in an email by STEMnet, A Talk to Inspire. And my thanks have got to go to Miss Moore for making this possible so quickly. She's a great teacher, guys. Give her apples and all that. First of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Florian Bay. I am a chemist, a nuclear scientist. I work for the FNG. And you'll all have to guess from which country I'm from. You'll all tell me when the talk is over. And I'm afraid I don't have a prize for the correct guess. But anyway, keep guessing, guys. Over a decade ago, I stood in a similar position to you all, wondering, what shall I do with my future after I get my A-levels? Wondering my future and wondering or not. Shall I carry on with science or shall I not carry on with science? Carrying with science is what I did. I'm guessing that some of you guys are already studying science, GCSE or A-levels. So hands up. Why did you take up science, just out of curiosity? Just let's have a bit of a group discussion quite quickly. Why did you choose science? Someone wants to go first? Yes? You enjoy it? Hands. You enjoy it? Okay, anything else? Yeah?
There are like a really large amount of different kind of jobs.
Okay. So I'll just call it variety. Indeed, there's a large variety of jobs and a large variety of else. Let's get another one. Yes, please.
It explains how things work.
Very good one. It explains how things work. Okay, let's get a final one. Come on. Yeah?
There's always new discoveries.
Very good one. Always new discoveries. Okay, so quite a large variety of answers, and my talk actually covered most of these. But first of all, I would like to get a feel for something else. Has anyone else studied history, whether at A-level or at GCSEs? Anyone that has studied some history before? Quite a few people, that's good to know. Right, in order to understand why science, we must first embark on a journey to the past, 400 years ago. So 400 years ago, it was a world where science wasn't even on the horizon. We had alchemists, we had a bit of sorcerer and all that stuff, but scientists weren't even there. And Newton's apple was still perched very high atop the tree, and yet to fall, really. And if all of us had been born in this world, we're all quite young, but possibly more than half of us would already be dead. Because the medicine at the time was not based on science and inquiries, but on humour. It's like, oh, he's got a good humour today, he's got a bad humour, he's got an evil humour today. And their solution, if you were sick and please come in, had a disease, was to bleed you to death, because it would remove the disease from the body. This is not a world where I would want to live in. Most of us would probably be very hungry or malnourished because food was very scarce and very expensive at that time. And meat would have been only a luxury to be eaten in times of feast or during celebration of various sorts. I'm sure that you all have relatives spread far and wide across the UK and probably even the entire world. Just think how long it would have taken for you guys to go and see them over Christmas. In the case of my late grandparents, if they're only about 1,000 kilometers away from when I was living, when I was your age, it would have taken me a month to get there, across some trails and across the sea. And everything we would have had to do, working, spinning thread, grinding something, or digging a hole in the ground, it would have been your arms, or legs, or muscle that would have done that, all that work. Also think of the clothes you're wearing. What are they made up of? Anyone? Cotton. Correct. Cotton was a very scarce and a very expensive material 400 years ago. And cotton clothes were really the preserve of the luxury. If you were like a peasant or an artisan, you would have just had to make them with some woolen rags that you would have kept mending and repairing. All of that now is the preserve or imagination. But how did we came to this? Where I can go on the high street and buy this for 89 pence and have as many of them as I want. They're abundant. Scarcity is a thing of the past. How did we come to this indeed? Well, just as like a lot of you, I love it. I love to have one of these once in a while. But where is the link with science, I can all you ask? Well, in order to find out, we need to think that 400 years ago, 6 million people lived in Britain. It's 60 million now. 10 times the number. Back then, that 6 million people were hungry. Now, we're not really hungry anymore. So how did that happen? Well, very simply, through science, we waged a battle against hunger, and we slayed the demon of famine itself. Now you'd probably all thinking, well, farming and agriculture, that's quite simple. I can just throw some seeds in the ground, and they'll grow into big plants. It's not actually as easy as it seems. So as you may have noticed, some plants don't grow in some areas, or they grow better than others in some areas. And if the plants don't have the right nutrients, just like humans, they need to eat, they're simply not going to grow at all. So how did that happen? Well, it was by studying, by making experimentation with plants, with fields, that we were able to understand, well, actually, a plant can grow better in that area. Oh, these plants, if we just make them together, they'll have sturdier grains, and they will produce more yield. Charles Darwin and Gregor Mendel were some of the many names involved in this field of study. In this field of study that eventually will become genetics, the science of the very basic building bricks of life. And through this, each generation of farmer got grain that are sturdier, more productive, and will produce far more seed than the previous ones. Any chemists in the room? Chemists, hands up. Ah, almost a majority. Good. Chemistry is the central science, as they call it that. And there is a quote for you all, which you should use in your next assignment. Chemistry means the difference between poverty and starvation and the abundant life. What an inspirational quote, in so much so. And where's the link again to all plants, what I was saying? Well, as I mentioned, plants, they're not good. In some places, they just won't grow because the right nutrients aren't there. If you plant some beans on sand, they will not grow because there's nothing on sand. But the nutrients may not be there in the first place, but you can certainly provide them. And plants need only two types of nutrient, nitrogen and phosphorus. And we can provide these as fertilizers. And most of this nitrogen comes actually from the atmosphere. 79% of the atmosphere is made up of nitrogen. And the way we make fertilizers are simply harvesting air itself, combining it with hydrogen to make ammonia, and then make ammonium nitrate, which is sold by the millions of tons every year as fertilizer. This key discovery of chemical science is only 1 century old. And it is this discovery that enabled the Green Revolution to take place. And countries like India and China, whose population boomed, not to fall victim to famines again. So you see, this guy there is almost there thanks to thin air, thanks to the nitrogen that's in the air, because of scientists. I think it's quite exciting. Now, who likes flying over there? Hands up. Anyone likes flying? Or perhaps is scared of flying? Come on. Quite a few people. I absolutely love flying myself. And obviously, other families overseas, so I need to fly in order to see my parents at Christmas or over Easter and all of that. But flying is something we take for granted. We can just hop on a plane and go to Scotland, go to Africa, go to America. It just seems very easy, and it's quite cheap as well these days. But how did it all happen again? Well, earlier I mentioned Newton's apple, and when Newton's apple falls, Newton say, well, hold on, why has this apple fallen in the ground in the first place? And it is by asking this very simple question at first that we were able to piece together how a flying machine could potentially work by learning the law of gravity. Flying required vanquishing it in the first place. If you jump, you're going to fall. We're not birds. In order to fly, you have to vanquish gravity. And there's two ways you can do this. One is through buoyancy. You can just float through the air like an hot air balloon, or you can drive through it with wings and fly. Now, of course, once you know this basic principle, well, we know that effectively a wing can produce lift, which will just raise a plane up. You need to power that plane in the first place. And you need something that's very, very powerful indeed in order to achieve this. And you might be thinking, well, the more powerful an engine or a motor is, the heavier it is. And you would be completely correct. So therefore, you have a bit of a dilemma there. I want more and more people to fly, a heavier and heavier machine to fly, but I need a more and more powerful engine, which is, because I need more and more power. How do you square that up? And die comments, ladies and gentlemen, the engineers. You probably don't study a lot of engineering at the moment, but engineering is a key discipline that brings together many areas of science for applied purposes. The first plane were propelled by this very simple engine, just like the ones on cars. But instead of driving wheels, they were driving propellers. These engines became more and more powerful, leaner and stronger by shaping them together like stars so that the piston would all move together. And later on, by replacing them with gas turbine, which propelled most of the planes flying these days. Just think about it. By meeting this challenge of concentrating ever higher amount of power in a small space, the temperature in the heart of a jet engine is 2,000 degrees C. That's a lot of heat, and I wouldn't want to stand anywhere near it, really. We need to look back for a second at how amazing flying is and how much of an achievement that is. When you see an S380 flying above us from Heathrow en route for Australia, Dubai and so on, it weighs, it is equivalent to 30 double-decker buses, all piled up together, flying. So the engine at takeoff, they have to lift 30 double-decker buses out of the ground, which, to be fair, I think is quite an amazing thing. If you want to go to Australia, it used to take almost a year of sailing to get there 400 years ago. We don't even know it was there in the first place, actually, 400 years ago. Now it just takes a single day. You'll be flying above the clouds, enjoying your iPad, enjoying in-flight entertainment, enjoying a gourmet meal in a pressurized cabin. And we'll get there in just one day. 400 years ago, we could only dream of achieving this. 400 years on, physicists and engineers made flying a commodity, something that all of us can enjoy. And yet the challenge is far from over. New discoveries to be made, as someone said earlier. 20 years ago, it was possible to fly between London and New York faster than the sun and the sound itself with Concorde. Now we can't do that anymore because Concorde is not there. This is a hiatus we have to correct. And maybe it will be someone in this very room that will set to solve this problem. How can we fly faster than the sun again, but without it being too expensive, without it consuming too much fuel? It will be your mission to correct this. I should have caught it, come on. Now, food that's basically almost too cheap, and millions of people fly, billions of people flying every year. It's a manifestation of one thing, that mankind's energy usage has significantly increased over the last 400 years. That in order to do all these fantastic things, we need the energy to do that. And how much energy do you guys think we're using in the United Kingdom every single year? How much energy are we guys using? Give me a number, please. In what? In watts? Any ideas? It's a big number. That's the only hint I'll say. Come on. 1 billion? 1 billion?
In watts?
Yeah, in what hours?
A couple trillion.
Not far off. We are actually using 1,200 terawatt hours of energy. That's by the way. 16 digits. If you guys were all put on a treadmill or told to run or to paddle for an entire year, how much energy do you guys would produce on that treadmill for 1 year? It's not as big a number, obviously. Come on. You guys have an idea? Sorry? Yeah, it's in kilowatt hours. Wow, 1,000,000. If we could produce 1,000,000 kilowatt hours, the world's energy problem would be sorted. It's only 150 kilowatt hours. So if humans had to paddle to meet our energy needs, to meet that number, bearing in mind that we can only produce this one in a single year, 8 billion humans would have to work slave for us, in fact, for a whole year just to make the entire energy need of the United Kingdom. 8 billion. And there aren't 8 billion humans on Earth. So effectively, in order to square the cycle, we have to find inanimate sources of power to replace biological ones, like muscle, like oxen, like horses, and so on. And this challenge was first met in the Industrial Revolution by burning coal instead of wood. You can burn coal with the power of fire, and coal is effectively a lump of concentrated wood, a lot of concentrated energy, and you can extract quite a lot of energy out of it. But it is a finite source of energy, however. And as you know, we're probably going to run out of oil at some point in the future. So how can we meet our future energy needs? How can we rise up to the challenge? Because just like we did before, we'll have to rise up to the challenge. For that, we will need nearly infinite sources of energy. Wind power is one, and the sun rays are another one. Every hour, more energy from every hour, there is enough energy from the sun striking the earth that is used by the whole of mankind in 1 year. So if we could harvest just that energy for just an hour, we could power the whole of mankind for just 1 year. That gives you an idea of the order of magnitude that are involved. But obviously, behind the sun itself lies another source of energy, the power of the infinitely small. Does anyone know what this is? It's very small. It weighs, a real one would weigh 7 grams. It's a fuel. Yes?
Uranium.
Correct. Well done. That's a uranium pellet indeed. This weighs 7 grams. And this is a reproduction of a uranium pellet that will be used on pressurized water reactor. But however, only 4% of these pellets can be useful, because only 4% of these 7 grams are fissile uranium-235. I'm sure you've all studied Albert Einstein's famous equation of E equals mc squared, and that mass is simply energy, and vice versa. When a neutron strikes an atom of fissile element, like uranium-235, or plutonium-238, and a few other ones, the mass of the resulting product are less than what we started off with. And this is where the nuclear energy comes from. Tremendous amounts of energy are being produced in the process. Within this small pellet, that 4% of usable uranium fuel, it could power your whole house for 1 year. 1 year of your eating, your lighting, your iPads, all that stuff, right between my fingers. If you want to have a different order of magnitude, it is about 1 ton of coal or 600 liters of petrol, which would be quite a large tank, just within my own fingers indeed. And yet, as amazing as nuclear energy might seem, we have only scratched the surface of it. Who here has read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stones? Who's read Harry Potter? Almost all of you. Great. And so you know what the Philosopher's Stone is. The Philosopher's Stone in Harry Potter is something that could transform dull lead into shining gold. It's something that's amazing. I'd love to have one. And I'm sure we would all love to have one, because we would be billionaires, wouldn't we? But yet, with nuclear energy and nuclear engineering, this is precisely what you can achieve. You can transform one element into another. In these small pellets, we've got a lot of uranium-238. That is a fertile fuel, but not a fissile one. It just sits there and doesn't do much. But under certain conditions, with certain types of nuclear reactor, you could transform that fuel into plutonium-239, which would be a fissile nuclear fuel. And should you do that, you transform all the fertile fuel in this pellet, you could power up a whole street of 25 houses with it for 1 year, with this small pellet of uranium fuel. And now you might be thinking, well, hold on, Florian, uranium is probably a finite resource. It is, and it isn't at the same time. There is a lot of uranium being dissolved in the sea, actually. 4.5 billion tons of it, just lying in the sea, dissolved in very small concentration. And to give you an idea of how many pellets this would be 600 trillion of these pellets, 15 digits. Not as high a number as this one, but still a very big number. Technically, we could power up the whole of mankind with this wall of uranium, not just for decades, not even for hundreds of years, not even for thousands of years, but for millions of years. Over the last 400 years, through science, we slayed the demon of famine, and we made food almost out of thin air. We took up to the skies and battled the winds and the stars themselves, and we met our growing energy needs partly by cracking atoms like nuts. The world in which we are now walking would seem like magic from someone of that time. They would think, these people are not human, they are wizards, they would think. But after all, this could be very well true. Someone once said, every sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So we scientists are magicians. Who said that, by the way? Any idea who said that quote? No? It's Arthur C. Clarke. He's the author of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The movie is more well known by the book, but the books are better. And yet, many, many, many challenges remain. And many battles are yet to be won by science. Some haven't even been waged just yet. Meeting the needs of 7 and soon 8, 9, 10, or maybe 20 billion humans living on planet Earth will require to put more of these on the table, more food to be produced, new fertilizers to be invented, plant diseases to be fought, and any negative impact on the environment arising from farming eliminated. Because using resources efficiently through science also has the beneficial impact of reducing your environmental footprint. Are you up for this challenge? Once again, mankind yearns to fly faster than the sun itself and to break the sound barrier to go from London to New York. This will require science, a new generation of scientists, a new generation of engineers. But moreover, we have our British flag, guys, to put on the moon. The Americans have done it. So why not us, after all? Are you up for this challenge? I know I certainly will. Ever more energy will be needed to power up our next generation of gadget, to keep us warm, to keep us comfortable. We have the seas to burn, and Philosopher's Stone called fast breeder reactor to build. Are you guys up for this challenge? Do not fear the future. We have achieved a lot already over the last 400 years, but there is more to come. And who knows, if we could all be proper 400 years into the future, we look at all descendants and say, they are wizards. I have always believed in the next big thing, and this is why I am not speaking in front of you after having studied science. And along the way, after graduating to university, walked atop a working nuclear reactor for the first time, just over 2.5 years ago. Under my feet was hell itself, and it was perfectly safe. And I would like to invite you all to follow into my footsteps. You have challenges to meet together, and an exciting future to build and discover. Thank you very much.